Awesome. Thank you for that introduction, Q. Again, my name is Beth Schwartz. I am a registered dietitian and I am the dietitian for Tennessee baseball. And yes, a little bit about myself. I am a former student athlete at the University of Tennessee. I actually come from a Vanderbilt lineage. My great granddad and his father actually coached baseball at Vanderbilt. So my dad grew up in Seven Hills, Tennessee, and was going to go to Vanderbilt until Bill Battle recruited him to come to Knoxville and play football. And that's where my family got plugged into Knoxville. I do bleed orange and I do love Tennessee baseball. And just to start out, what I do cannot be done without the assistance of Q. I'm kind of like most dietitians, you range over onto the side of the medical model or you're over in on conditioning, strength and conditioning. I kind of move back and forth, but Q being our backbone in this program, I am very reliant on him in order to do my job. What's going on like boots on the ground? What are they looking like? What are they feeling like? What are their needs? I rely on consistent communication with him, all of our coaches on a daily basis, because I not only I have baseball, I have a couple other sports on campus. So he and our relationship is very close. But straight out the gate, let me see here, to my next slide. Objectives for this presentation: fueling to keep up with growth and development, using nutrition to impact sleep and overall recovery, establishing a healthy relationship with food for long-term success on the field. All of those things are very important when it comes to not only my role, but Q's role with this team. And I'll go ahead and just get in on my slides. I say this to all my student athletes or people that I meet with on a daily basis when it comes to sports nutrition. I want you to think about the 2 to 3 hours that you spend on the baseball diamond and in the weight room. What are you doing the other 23? And so much about the student athlete, they come from such diverse backgrounds. They have such diverse resources. A 2-parent household, urban, living in a city, having resources, having money, not having money, coming from a nutrition education household versus having absolutely nothing. I have to navigate that in conjunction with you to help get these guys ready to perform on the baseball diamond. But a lot of this recovery pyramid, talking about those 21 hours outside of workouts, the number one thing, as much as the guys call me the food lady, as much as I want to say nutrition and hydration, my wheelhouse predominantly would have the greatest impact on strength and conditioning progression and performance out on the baseball diamond. It's actually sleep. Now, you talk to Coach Vitello, and he's not wrong, and I will never tell Coach Vitello he's wrong. He will actually say nutrition is number one, because even if you're getting 11 hours of sleep on a Saturday night for Sunday, if you've gone to cookout at 11 o'clock at night, you haven't eaten, you've been hydrating, haven't been hydrating with the right things, that is going to affect your sleep quality, therefore affecting your human growth hormone and your testosterone production, which will smother gains in the weight room and hinder performance out on the baseball diamond. Just giving a little bit of an overview when it comes to nutrition. When I go to plate coach, guys, because a lot of it's a process. Everything in sports, I mean, with pitching, with catching, with infield, outfield, in the weight room, everything has its process. Even in a classroom, there is a process to get to your goal. With nutrition, I coach on 3 different places on a plate: your protein, your carbohydrates, and your color. So I've got 4 here. So I've got my proteins, I've got my carbohydrates, but then I also have vegetables and fruit, because I have guys come in that say, Miss B, I am not going to eat any sort of vegetables. Or I have guys come in and say, Miss B, I am a carnivore. I am not eating fruit. I still have to find a way to get them to eat the things to help improve their performance. So from a foundational standpoint, protein being number one. Q can't develop guys as rapidly as we would like, because we had a guy come in that really has no experience in a strength and conditioning or in a weight room. So his development can go through the roof because this time of year, I'd say the past 4 or 5 months, this is a really great opportunity for us to build the foundation of a baseball player. Because once we build this foundation, what like Frank and Q were talking about, the month of December into January, when they're away from us, that is huge. All the gains that we make in July to December can actually go out the window if guys don't stay on the bandwagon when it comes to taking care of their bodies with their recovery. So from a developmental standpoint, having protein on their plate, and protein in terms of amino acids in their food to help develop muscle, because that is the framework of muscles, is amino acids. If you don't have it from an outside source, the one place your body's going to go after is your muscles, because that's the one place it harbors the nutrition to actually repair and develop and grow lean tissue. Okay, so I always coach guys. I'll actually sit down with every single guy on our roster multiple times within the season. And a lot of times a consult will be, I'm walking him to class. I see him at breakfast every day. I see him at lunch every day. And then we'll feed him in the clubhouse over in the team room after a practice or after a game. And I'm just like, how are you feeling? How are you sleeping? Like, how's your practices been? How's your energy level been? All of that can be just at the drop of a hat, or I'm sitting at my desk and we're behind a closed door and having a conversation. So I will actually tell them or give them a goal of the number of grams of protein that they should eat in a day. So number one, protein. Number two, carbohydrates. If they don't have carbohydrates for energy in order to do the work to build the lean tissue, we're not going anywhere. Okay, so Q has to have that as a source of fuel for them to actually do work. So there's so many different things when it comes to carbohydrates. Yes, pasta, rice, potatoes, French toast, pancakes, waffles, grits, oatmeal. There's so many different forms. And depending on the student athlete, some of them we're eating oatmeal and yogurt and scrambled eggs and fresh fruit with a protein shake at breakfast. And other guys, we may be doing biscuits and something a little bit more heavy. So all of that is from an individualized approach. I don't want you guys to think that I blanket a roster. There is no way I could blanket Tennessee baseball when it comes to a nutrition approach, because we've got 6'7", 6'8" kids. And then we've got guys that are shorter than I am that are built like a brick house. So that can't be blanketed. So from a protein standpoint and a carbohydrate standpoint, amino acids for the foundation of lean tissue, carbohydrates for fuel. The next one is pretty much every student athlete's least favorite thing to talk about is their color. And a lot of them do not understand the component of color on their plate. Not only, yes, as the food lady and as a registered dietitian, from overall health and wellness, vitamins and minerals, one thing that's actually forgotten about, you have a pitcher that's 6'7", 6'8", 215, 220 pounds, sometimes larger, all the carbohydrates and all the protein that they've got to eat. And that's got to pull through their abdomen so that when they get on that pitching mound, they feel light and energetic. The component of color on their plate for digestion is huge. So not only, yes, health and wellness, digestion, but also injury prevention. If you're eating a lot of fried foods, heavy foods that are going to cause the inflammatory process in the body. So if a guy lets go with the ball wrong, a guy's doing some sort of mobility out on the field and lands in an inaccurate way, his body flaming up and an injury being likely is going to happen if guys aren't keeping everything nice and calm from a fruits and vegetables inflammatory standpoint, to keep it calm in the body to prevent injuries. So this is kind of, I just use this as an example as a moderate training day. So any day, anywhere between an hour or 2 hours of moderate to strenuous work, whether it's out on the field or it's actually in the weight room, this is the process right here. We actually have one this is for weight and maintenance. So I sit down with Q, I sit down with our coaches and I say, okay, based upon this frame size, how developed he is, how far he's come along, how far he needs to go, we will actually give guys goals of where they could be. But one thing about this program is you buy into the process, you eat, you train hard, and you sleep, which we will get to sleep and repeat every day. It's exciting to see how strong and how their bodies will develop. Because honestly, as a dietitian and working with a strength coach like Q, you'll get guys that come into Tennessee baseball after 2 years of eating, training, hydrating, going to bed, doing that day after day. It's almost like they go through a second puberty in college. And that can happen in high school sports as well. Once you start this framework, having these segments of your plate, it actually helps develop their game on the baseball diamond. So for our weight maintenance plate, we actually, a lot of times our protein will stay the same. If a guy needs to gain a little bit of weight, the carbohydrate section on their plate will expand a little bit. Whereas a guy, if he needs to cut a little bit of weight, because that does happen from time to time, and depending on what their lifestyle is like outside of the clubhouse, we'll cut back on the carbohydrates. But there's so much to be said about, yes, we have all this research and data that says this guy at this size needs to be this weight. When it comes to guys feeling good and throwing the ball fast and being dynamic in the batter's box and making plays out on the field, sometimes you got to throw the data out the window. If he's feeling good and he's slinging weight and he's producing, a lot of that comes from coach's feedback, strength coach feedback, and my feedback. Okay. So from a nutrition standpoint, moving into hydration, I think hydration when it comes to baseball as student athletes is one thing that's forgotten about a lot of times. I encourage guys to think. I want you to think about a hydrated muscle versus a dehydrated muscle. Dehydrated muscle, thinking beef jerky. Hydrated muscle, it's like a raw ribeye before it goes on the grill. Beef jerky, you've got to pull and tear versus a raw ribeye, which is kind of malleable. Thinking about all the little ligaments and tendons and the shoulder joint, the elbow joint, hips, knees, how everything comes around and attaches. Is that beef jerky or is that a raw ribeye? And sometimes from an injury prevention standpoint, if we are hydrated, that helps prevent. But also from a recovery standpoint, if guys are dehydrated, they're not going to recover as efficiently. And going back to what we were talking about when it comes to color and the process of building a performance plate, all that protein and all those carbs, because these guys can eat some food. You guys as probably former athletes at one point in time, you all can crush some food. And Tennessee baseball can crush some food. And to have a strong, slender abdomen, all of that having to pull through your GI, you've got to have that color there, but the water is what flushes it through the garbage disposal. Okay, so looking at your GI like a garbage disposal, if that hydration isn't there, it's not helping push it through. So a guy's going to be out on the pitcher's mound and he's going to be heavy and lethargic versus light, bubbly, and full of energy, ready to do work. But also when it comes to cramping, that's another question that I actually have to address when it comes to student athletes. How susceptible are you to cramping? Is it something that's happened to you in the past? Is it not? And getting that information. But a lot of guys, depending on their background, eating a lot of fast food, eating a lot of prepackaged foods, those come with a lot of sodium and preservatives in them. And when you start taking some of that stuff out and putting clean, good food that's buying into the process, all of a sudden they didn't have any history of cramping, and now all of a sudden they're cramping. They can't believe it. They're on Miss B, what happened? In their, to see the terror in their face, but making that transition, it's a good road flare for us, but for the student athlete to know not only hydration, but electrolytes. And one of our sports teams likes to call people like me normal, athletic, real human beings. I am somebody that eats, the recommended daily allowance of sodium is 2,000 milligrams in a day. If guys like this ate 2,000 milligrams, there's no way they would be as explosive and twitchy and injury prone as they possibly could be. So from time to time, we do different types of supplementation. So talking about electrolytes from a sodium, potassium, chloride, magnesium standpoint, Tennessee likes to use Right Stuff and Drip Drop, but we're a Gatorade school, so we will use Gatorade. But I am somebody, and you can ask you, I am somebody that whole nutrition will always go so much further than supplements. And we'll talk about supplements in a second. But eating pickles on your sandwich at lunch, pretzels as a salty snack, getting it in incremental places throughout your day, salting your eggs at breakfast, eating a banana or a kiwi to have the potassium. So as sodium's moving out of the cell, potassium's moving in. As guys sweat and sodium's pulling out of their body, having a good balance so that guys can stay explosive, not only the first inning, but in the back half of the seventh, the eighth, the ninth, and God forbid we move past that. Hopefully we've sealed the deal and we're headed home on the bus at that point. But in order for them to continue to improve their performance as the game goes on, versus they get a cramp in their quad, they get a cramp in their side, they're not thinking about throwing gas over the plate. They're thinking about, oh man, and they're having a timeout's having to be called, and they're having to come in, and they're not thinking about baseball. And the biggest thing is them focusing on their game and us controlling the controllables, because the other things that we can't control, there's nothing we can do. So much from a preparation standpoint, from a hydration standpoint, starts pre-game meal or the dinner meal the night before a game. So the carbohydrates on their plate the night before the game, they get up at breakfast, hydration starts at that point in time. And these are just some examples of testers that we use. I don't know why this isn't popping up. Here we go. So from a hydration status here over on the right, just from a guy's urine color, sometimes I can't, if I'm not there, if Q's not there, they're off on the other side of campus in Ayers Hall using the bathroom between math and English class, using their color, their urine color as an indicator of how hydrated they are. We do that here in the clubhouse, but when they're actually on campus, depending on where they fall, if they are anywhere between 5, 6, 7, 8, they need to be seeing the registered dietitian or our strength coach immediately. Okay, because they are susceptible to injury. But down in the middle, that's a refractometer. We actually use an MX3, which is the tongue prod, where the guys can swallow their saliva and set a sample on the tip of their tongue. And it's pretty much, they could be getting off a bus and I'm tapping them. They're in the dugout, I'm tapping them. And if, depending on where they fall on that scale, I can actually put them into a protocol from a hydration, electrolyte supplementation standpoint to actually get them to where they need to be by the time that first pitch comes across the plate. So hydration, and going back to what we were talking about on one of the first slides, as much as I want to say nutrition and hydration are number one, it in fact is actually sleep. And one thing about Tennessee, we are a Whoop school, so there's a lot of different sleep monitors that are out on the market right now. Whoop, Oura Ring, Apple Watch, there's several out there. We are a Whoop school, so that's our big time guys that are really bought into those 21 hours. We use Whoop to monitor their sleep. And so much about sleep, we've got the different stages, 1, 2, 3, 4, and REM. REM being brain, when they go to sleep, when their brain shuts off, and they're getting mechanic changes with Frank. They're working on something in the weight room from a technique standpoint. A lot of the drills that they're doing, those are drills that they've done since they were in, younger age, like playing Pee-wee baseball years ago. They're getting to the point where they're trying to perfect these drills and perfect these lifts in order for them to remember that and remember things academically. Quality in REM sleep, deep sleep being, or stage 4, is actually the body shutting down and able to repair itself. Okay, so from my standpoint as a dietitian, I use nutrition and hydration to actually manipulate a guy's sleep. So they come into school and, there are some guys that'll, just being frank, they'll be up arguing with their girlfriend till 3:30 in the morning, or they forgot to write a paper and they're doing it at the last minute, or they're up playing video games. We have guys all over a span of like what their sleep habits are like. And then we have guys that are extremely disciplined, that every night they're going to bed at the same time. And talking about going to bed at the same time, talking about sleep hygiene is something that this baseball team talks about quite a bit. So sleep hygiene, what is your routine on the front end of your sleep that's actually going to help your sleep be beneficial to help the quality of your sleep? Because sometimes, or most days, if you get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Friday, Saturday rolls around, you don't have an alarm, here you are, guys are waking up at 6 o'clock on Saturday morning and they are upset. They're going, why am I waking up? I want, and they're having to go back to sleep. But they've gotten their body and their hormones acclimated to getting up at the same time every day. And because they're doing that on the back end of their sleep, we've got to start training their bodies to do that on the front end of sleep. So every night, whether it's they're putting on blue light glasses, looking at their computers, looking at their phones, watching television, to start calming everything so all the little transmitters in the brain aren't moving as fast and as dynamically. We're starting to shut everything down. So ideas I give guys: take a hot shower, turn the thermostat down in your room. Instead of it an overhead light, let's turn on a lamp beside your bed. Are you eating a nighttime snack? And if it is a nighttime snack, I encourage a high protein snack with antioxidants, or like something colorful. So like low fat Greek yogurt with fresh berries on top of it. So not only have you got high protein for muscles to actually have the nutrition to repair themselves while the guy is asleep in bed repairing at night, but they've actually got antioxidants floating around in their system to help with free radicals or inflammation in the body, to help keep everything calm, just to help with the recovery process. And that's usually good at least an hour and a half before bed. Anything closer than sleep time when it comes to fueling, I've tended to find out or to see, just whether it be with Whoop or Aura, or just how guys feel, their sleep quality isn't as good, or it just isn't as good as it possibly could have been. But all of those are just different little things. But one thing I would have to say is, nowadays, I think TikTok is probably one of the biggest things. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, guys just up scrolling at night, establishing a time, say 10:30. And baseball is a later block team. We have some early block teams where they've got to be in the complex at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. Baseball has to report to breakfast before 9 a.m. every morning. So guys have the ability to go to bed a little later, but establishing a time to put the do not disturb on your phone and just say, okay, every night at 10 o'clock, that do not disturb is going to actually alert you, and to flip your phone over, turn the TV off, shut your computer, and get yourself in bed every night at the same time. And do that process: shower, cold air up, lights dim, phone over, or blue light glasses on. And once you start creating that repetition, you start creating that routine on the front end of your sleep, just like you would on the back end of your sleep, that would cause you to wake up on Saturday morning without an alarm. That even if a guy's taking a little girl out to dinner one night and it's 9:30, 10 o'clock, and he's sitting at the melting pot downtown, he's yawning at 10 o'clock because his body is preparing itself to go to bed. Okay. And I like to use this graphic as a great example on starting fall block, or when guys report mid-January going into spring term. You start day one, you come in, you've slept, you've had some time off, you've been training by yourself a lot of times, or you've gone home and trained in your own clubhouse with old coaches, old teammates. You're coming back to Tennessee, day one, report day. This is your original training performance or original baseline. Now, as you break your body down with Q or with Coach Vitello, if you are not eating, hydrating, and sleeping to the level that you need to, where that yellow dotted line is to get you up to the original baseline of training performance, look where we're operating at on day 2 on that orange line. And not only day 2, day 3, day 4, thinking January, February, March, and then April is when SEC play starts rolling on, and we're going to Omaha. So April, May, June, it is a gauntlet. So it's so important that these guys prioritize those 21 hours of eating consistently throughout the day. So having 3 meals, and us normal active individuals, I eat 3 meals a day. What do these guys need to have? So breakfast, lunch, and dinner, pre-practice snack, intra-workout snack, because they'll do 2 workouts, 2 hours out on the field, an hour in the weight room with Q, so an intra-workout snack, and then a post-workout recovery before they go to dinner. These guys are going to be fueling throughout the day, continually hydrating and going to bed. All of those little decisions add up to help prevent breakdown. Because this training block that we've done from a developmental standpoint to grow and develop lean tissue through the fall, if these guys are not holding on to it in December, beginning of January, we're not starting January at a great place. But I actually have to switch my nutrition approach from fall and development to actually holding on to lean tissue once season starts, because these guys' bodies are like well-oiled furnaces. I'm trying to get as much nutrition into them as fast as I can and as frequently as I can in order to help prevent lean tissue breakdown. And I just wanted to make a little note on supplements. Switching gears a little bit, I am somebody that is a big proponent of nutrition and whole nutrition, because it is more bioavailable or absorbable in the body, is number one. But these guys have a tremendous amount of strain on their body day in and day out, sometimes twice a day, especially if we're on a plane going 3 time zones over and then maybe 2 time zones over and then back into Knoxville, and then they've got to go to class the next day. Sometimes we've got to supplement, whether it's protein, creatine monohydrate, fish oils, or multivitamins, vitamin C, a lot of collagen. We will supplement our guys, but what I tell guys that are in high school, middle school age, if you are going to take something, I encourage you to take something that is NSF certified, which is on the right side of the screen. That is the gold standard of testing when it comes to the NCAA. If you're taking something with an NSF certified label on it, you will not pop positive on a drug test at any point in college. Okay, so whether it's NSF or Informed Sport up on the top, I tell kids that are in high school, don't start taking something in high school that when you get to the college age, you can't take it because it's not certified for sport. You've become dependent on something at that age that when you actually get to a place to actually showcase your talents, you don't have that as a resource anymore. Nothing will outwork eating, hydrating, training hard every day. And as much as I say my job from a developmental standpoint in those 23 hours, guys can eat fantastic. They can hydrate fantastic and go to bed, and they will have tremendous gains in the weight room. But nothing outworks a guy's hard work in conjunction with that. So sometimes a guy will come in straight out the gate as a freshman, Miss B, tell me what to do. And they'll be adherent to all this. Whereas sometimes it takes guys, just like you was saying earlier, it takes guys 3 or 4 years to buy into the process. And a lot of times it's too late, but some of these genetically gifted guys, it's just in time. And lastly, you are responsible for what you put in your body and how you take care of it. There's a lot of research out there on, taking this, taking that, this diet, that diet. a lot of times, just like Coach Anderson said, simplifying everything. Let's take all the extra supplements, all the different little gimmicky things out. Let's buy into the process. Getting up every morning, eating breakfast, taking hydration to class, making sure you get your lunch meal in. We're an afternoon block team, so we're in the clubhouse around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and lunch opens at 11. So how are we going to navigate that so you don't have a full tummy of food coming into Lindsey Nelson every day to practice, especially with this guy over here? Good luck if you've got a full belly of food and you're walking into Lindsey. You're probably going to see your lunch again because he works you hard. So as a dietitian, I've got to work with guys. What does the class schedule look like? You know, if they got projects, where are they on campus? Their access to food. NIL guys versus non-NIL guys, guys that have allergies, all of those things have to be navigated when it comes to their process. But their buy-in is where we really can make big games. If we have a guy that wants to do it versus a guy, you know, sometimes we got to kind of drag them along until they fall in line. Either way, as their dietitian, I'm somebody, my first degree as a student athlete at Tennessee was psychology. So a lot of times before I can even talk nutrition, hydration, and sleep with a guy, they've got to get to know me. And a lot of times, until they know how much you care, they don't care what you know. So building that relationship is key. So whether it's something that Q's telling me that I need to have a heads up on, any way that I can help the student athlete, yes, I would love to be the food lady for them and help them in those 21 hours. But a lot of times you don't know what's happening from a personal standpoint with a guy. So at this age and the ages leading up to college, that's so important from a mental health standpoint, because if they, from a mental health standpoint, they can get we can get buy-in from them. They come in every day, and then it's just rinse and repeat over and over and over. That's something that not only are they going to do during their college professional era of just like health and wellness, when they have kids one day that are playing baseball or they're coaching. And a lot of coaches take what they did in college or did during their career and they plug it, because some schools don't have dietitians. Sometimes the trainer is the strength coach, is the dietitian, and you're having to use one person for 3 different resources, or you don't have the funds for it. So that being said, anything that we can do to help maximize the student athletes' experience at Tennessee and help develop them into better student athletes on and off the field, I'm here as kind of a chameleon. So sometimes I'm the safe place that I'll listen and be understanding. And other times I'm picking him up off the ground, putting my shoulder under him and throwing him back out there, or to Q is actually where I'd throw him to. But anything we can do to help these guys be big time guys and do special stuff for Tennessee and themselves on the baseball diamond is definitely our goal. And I think that may be it. If anybody has any questions for me, you can go ahead and throw them out. I love to talk about this. I love my job. I love Tennessee baseball. So if y'all have any questions, don't hesitate to ask.